In 2026, we started Nebraska Master Irrigator that's really focused on two key challenges that we have in agriculture this year. One is irrigation management, and the second is nitrogen management, and really keeping an eye towards economics and efficiencies and bringing together the full team that really supports decision making for farmers. So we've got farmers in the room, we've got research and education, we've got our conservation partners like natural resource districts and NRCS, and then we've got our ag business partners. So everyone that's involved in those decisions can come together and have a discussion. So when we're talking about the long-term sustainability of farms, we really want to focus on the water that supplies the irrigation that comes to these farms. And so on one side, we're talking about the amount of water we use so that we're putting just the right amount out and leaving as much as we can in the aquifer for long-term sustainability. And then the other side of that is making sure we have high quality water that's available for drinking, because that's the main source for the whole state. And so making sure that nitrogen stays in the root zone where it's useful to the crop and out of the water where it's a cost to farmers and a liability for public health. Nitrogen and irrigation are really critical both to farmers' bottom line. And so in years like 2026, where margins are razor thin, we're trying to help growers be as efficient as possible so that our farmers can be successful here in Nebraska. And then on the long term, these are also things that benefit all Nebraskans because it keeps our water supply abundant and safe for the future. What makes irrigation and nitrogen so challenging, I like to call them like the ultimate boss in like a game, is that they're really dynamic throughout the year. And so you can't just guess in the spring what's going to happen in our soils and in our water. So this is why we want to bring all these tools to bear as research has advanced and the tools available through industry have gotten better. It helps us manage dealing with, we get drought times, we get too wet at times, we get nitrogen loss when it's too wet, we get irrigation deficits when it's too dry. So we can bring these tools together and then best practices from the farmers to help us manage the variability that happens in each season. What we hope to do through Master Irrigator is bring together all the experts to talk in one room so that farmers know that they have a whole team that they can rely on. And then we also hope to elevate, everybody's knowledge and management skills, because there's a lot of tools that exist that people don't even know about yet, or they're unsure about what type of risks might this bring in. And so just being able to have that conversation with everybody in the room hopefully will give everyone more confidence. So today what we really focused on in Nebraska Master Irrigator was, we called it a shop talk. And so what we tried to do was have short starter discussion pieces, have some discussion. We played a game. So we created a virtual farm simulation game called Virtual Taps. So they got to play the game as teams, and the teams got to play against each other. So conversation happened in those teams. We had panel discussions where industry folks could share kind of their latest innovations, and then kind of a Q&A. And so we really just tried to have different formats of ways that people could talk and interact and learn from each other.
I've been to several of these Master Irrigators, and the learnings are different from each one. And I would say the biggest learning today is how much different the experiences we see from farmers in the north part of Nebraska versus what we've seen from farmers in the south and from the west. There's different aquifers that people are on. They have different usability for water. They have varying conditions in terms of rainfall and how that's impacting some of their decisions from an irrigation standpoint.
So one of the things that I did learn, field capacity is a challenge understanding how much water holding capacity soils have, different type of soils, and how fast the water moves through the profile if you're saturated, and how fast the crops can take up that water. So it gives me better understanding of the importance of soil moisture probes that I currently use, and a planned irrigation program to try and utilize the water that I do have access to.
What I really appreciated the most about today's workshop was being able to play the virtual TAPS game, where we can simulate water inputs, nitrogen inputs, and a bunch of different varietals, and then see what the outcome is. We had various tables playing this game, and it was interesting to see what decisions we could make to identify whether or not we would end up being cash flow positive at the end of the season.
For me, success for Nebraska Master Irrigator is that people will be willing to try something new. They might make a new connection, they want to try a new industry tool, they might want to try a new incentive program that a policymaker has. It might mean an ag technology that gets adopted, it could be new practices. So I'm just hopeful people are willing to experiment and try something that they weren't doing before.